Good evening, good evening, good evening. Who is cool as an ice lolly, but melts as soon as the temperature gets over 72 degrees? It's us three East Coast reprobates on Thursday night, American Scouts or TV, Thursday night podcast, ASTV for the cool kids, joined by Brian and Trevor. It's 100 million degrees, I think. It feels like it down here in the Macka den. Brian, how are you? How melty are you?
Let's see. Today was the first day we even had a heat advisory in like 4 days. So it hasn't been 106 or 113. But a tidbit noise of news I told you earlier right there. My swimming pool outside is 97 degrees. 97 degrees because of this weather. Nasty.
The world's biggest cup of coffee, if you can arrange that with
Yes.
Folgers. Trevor, how are you?
Regretting the sweatshirt fashion right now, but other than that, I'm doing great. And when Alan comes in, I got a new plant. It's gonna be great. It's
the best kind of plant, a red one.
I wonder how Alan's doing. But speaking of Alan, you know that Alan had
it's probably like 140 in Houston.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Alan's steam at this point.
Yeah,
hopefully not. I mean, we want to have him back. So there's not much still happening other than the Euros and Copa America. Some issues cropping up from both of those, which we'll talk about tonight. England's chances in Euro 2024. Declan Rice still haunting Irish people with England getting to the final. I don't like this idea that they keep jamming their way through each round, because that reminds me of the old German teams and Italian teams of old. But we'll speak about that anon, as they used to say. And then the whole idea after USA dropped out, were knocked out unceremoniously of the Copa America, and then Berhalter being fired. Rumors that Jurgen Klopp may be interested in becoming the USA manager. We will discuss that. And then the first week of Arne Slot's reign in training, players coming back from wherever they were on their holidays. I don't know, Lake Kwasi, Lake Compounds, wherever they go for their holidays, these rich ultra billionaires. But Mohamed Salah was back this week, and we got to see our first taste of the new regime and the new methods they've been using. So we will discuss that as well, and what we expect as players come back as they get knocked out of the various tournaments. But we will start with England. God help us. They are in the final. You can't argue with Southgate's record in that sense. I think he is the England manager who's got England to the most finals ever. So it has to be applauded. But correct me if I'm wrong, boys. They look awful. They look like a team that's not terribly well coached, but they are a team, as I was discussing with a former player of mine today that I bumped into, they are a team of probably the best squad of talent they've ever had in terms of depth. And if you have a squad of talent and you're not stupid enough to get in their way, like Roy Hodgson would be, and give them plans they don't need, they can muster up some sort of performance. And they've been doing that all tournament. My question to you, we'll start with Brian, then we go to Trevor, is do they have a chance against this Spain side with that young kid that looks like he could be possibly one of those, the next Messi's?
I mean, anybody really has a chance. I mean, you never know in these like one-off matches with their. I think that the one thing that I would worry about is who is Southgate going to pick, because so far in this tournament right there, I've seen a very inconsistent Saka right there that has been on the right, which I think that should have been probably replaced with a Cole Palmer or somebody like that to run on there, and I think it would give him more insight. But I mean, Yamal is legit. I mean, I just watched that goal. I mean, but of course, Foden was only a couple inches off right there from doing the same exact shot. So I mean, but again, who knows? You don't know. I mean, last night right there, who would have thought Colombia would have beat Uruguay? I mean, I didn't think that was going to happen. But hey, we'll see what happens. But I think that England has a legitimate shot.
It's almost 50-50, you could say, statistically. They're either going to win it or they're not going to win it. But in terms of performance, Trevor, Ollie Watkins came on and did what Harry Kane hasn't done all tournament, and it was a proper striker's goal. I think it was a very good goal. He got himself into a position. He put the ball exactly where you want to put it. If you look at the textbooks, right into the bottom corner. Probably could have been defended better, and maybe even goalkeeper could have been a little bit better on it. But my question is, controversy over the penalty aside, watching that game, it looked to me more like Holland were just terrible more than England were great. Holland just, for a team that needed a goal, once they conceded that second one, they did that kind of new thing of just tapping the ball around the back instead of just jamming it forward and hoping for the best. Because when you're in injury time and you need a goal back, who needs to look pretty? The Dutch, that's who, because they always have to look pretty. But are England that good to get to the final, or have they been handed a kind path and may get found out finally against Spain?
Well, my big thing with this whole tournament for England is that Southgate has kind of Mr. Magoo'd his way through this entire tournament. It's something where he has been bailed out time and time again by just the sheer class of the players he's picked. And that sounds kind of hypocritical because they are players he's picked. And that stuff has come out that like, oh, I was only putting Ollie Watkins on because I was going to bring on Ivan Toney in extra time for penalties, and then Ollie Watkins went and did Ollie Watkins things. It seems incredibly counterintuitive, and he's just kind of falling onto the Keno machine and somehow picking the winning numbers every time. It's something where I wrote a thing where the way that he's kind of deployed Trent throughout this tournament has been incredibly counterproductive to how we could potentially use him coming into the new season. But it's something where I think this team is kind of just rallied around his incompetence more than anything. And it feels weird to say, but it's something where they know that they have a bunch of world beaters. And if they can just find those little pockets of glory, they can make up for the fact that he basically sets them up to draw every game. And yeah, kudos to Ollie Watkins. That was an incredibly taken goal. I'm gutted for the Dutch team, but yeah, that England, as much as I want to just kind of crap on the tactics, their late work and that penalty shootout, for whatever anybody wants to say, their easy road, so on and so forth. They've won every game and they've gone through to the final. I'm picking Spain. I'm staying with it. I've gone with Spain from the beginning, but I would not be the least bit surprised to see England pip them in like the 92nd minute or some shit.
Brian, in terms of like the Liverpool thing, we have Trent Alexander-Arnold there, gets them through with that final penalty, and then it gets dropped. And did he not get onto like injury time or something like that? Or did he got on at all? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he didn't play.
In terms
he didn't play it off.
Yeah. In terms of Southgate, like he seems to be a manager who has his favorites. If you're Spain, do you think that makes this England team incredibly predictable to work up a plan against? Because essentially you've got to know who's going to play where. And if that's the case, do you think Southgate is capable of putting some sort of surprise in?
I think the problem right there, what they're going to do is they're going to attack Manu. I think Manu is going to be a target right there. He's a young player, and I think that's going to be an object for them to go after. And you can see right there that happened toward one of the first matches right there. Isolating Harry Kane right there will go there, leave England with no chance to go there, link up play between Bellingham and him. So, I mean, there's ways that they can shut down, that Spain can easily shut them down. I think that the best move that England had was Luke Shaw getting healthy, because they totally go there and changed everything. Because Trippier was really struggling right there, and I mean to a point where Trippier probably should go ahead and bow out from the international duties, because he was not effective at all. So I think that of course, moving Trent. I think that the Walker thing right there. I mean, I watched Walker a couple times through there. He made runs, but he's not the same exact dynamic player that we thought he was. I mean, he's more defensive minded than Trent is, but I think you lose a lot of offense on your right hand side. So I think that Southgate needs to mix things up. But Willie, nope. He's going to do the same old thing right there that he does right there. You're going to see the same exact lineup right there. Phil Foden being put in the wrong spot. I mean, you're going to see, like I said earlier, ineffective Saka. I mean, on the right. I mean, so yeah. I mean, it's easy to go there to go ahead and knock England back, just by going there and just putting them on their back foot. I think that Spain is more than capable of doing that right there. Because I mean, again, young side, very talented and very fast, and so I think that may be a problem for England.
Trevor, it reminds me a little bit of Bobby Robson managing England, in the sense that in 1990 in the World Cup, which was probably the other last time England had a really, really top-class squad from start to finish, subs and everything, even more than the so-called golden generation, because that was just maybe a good 14 or 15 players. But this squad is, I think you could put arguments in for every member on the subs bench, and that squad in 1990, you could do the same thing. But Bobby Robson, they played the 4-4-2, wasn't working for them, and the players asked them to play a back three with Mark Wright, I believe, as the sweeper, and it worked out phenomenally for them until they played a team that already knows how to play with a back three, and then it didn't work anymore. In West Germany, I think. I can't remember, but it was either West Germany or Argentina, but they knew how to play with a back three because they already did that as a natural thing. Spain are very good at playing 3-4-3s. They're very good at playing 4-3-3s, and they're also an incredibly technical team. Is this a case where the players had something fresh and new for 2 games that, it makes you have to think? If we've all kicked the ball. I've kicked it with my head now and again. But you get an idea where you play a certain formation constantly, you get kind of complacent with it, and then you're introduced to this fairly simple new formation, and for a couple of games, it's great because it's new, and now you have to think about your game, you have to think about your position and where you didn't have to before. But then ultimately, the same problems crop up because it's not a formation you're terribly used to. So is this a case, much like 1990, where this move to a 3-4-2-1 has energize the players at the right time, but they're coming up against the wrong team to be playing against?
Yeah, I think Spain is the last team you want to, quote unquote, experiment against. They are so set in what they do, and even though they're not the tiki taka machine that they used to be, they are a team where everybody kind of is really just dead set in what they do. And that's, it's as simplistic as that sounds, that is incredibly dangerous, because there's nobody that's really going to get caught out. When Spain gets scored on, it's coming from something just really special. This tournament, they've not really been broken down. Even when Germany got their equalizer in the quarterfinals, it was something where Florian Wirtz really just rose up and made something special happen. And I think that it's an incredibly, like you said, it's an incredibly disciplined team. It is a team that is there are no guys that you feel the need to like feed the ball to. Whereas a lot of times with England, when you see the midfielders get the ball, they're looking to Jude Bellingham to try to get him the ball. And when it gets up front, they're trying to get Harry Kane the ball. And as he's just limping around, there's a lot of times where they are maybe making that extra pass when they probably shouldn't. And I think against Spain, that is something that is going to just kind of be exploited. They're not a team where you can kind of work on the fuck around and find out graph. You got to really just go at it, and that's where I think Southgate maybe needs to take like a step back and, I don't know, let the players pick the team or something. I don't know. Just have a nice little casual mutiny and just go, yeah, we're not going to let you put out the starting 11. It's not going to happen. I know I'm just speaking complete bullshit, but yeah, I think he doesn't understand what you're going to have to put out to beat this Spanish side. But the players that are going to be out there, I think they do. So it's not going to be as just completely of a disconnect on the pitch as a lot of people will think it will be.
Jude Bellingham, Brian, he has not set the world alight, but he's certainly been the player that you would expect him to be given the hype around him this season at Real Madrid. He's a good player. He's a player I wish Liverpool had gotten, but we were never going to get him once Real Madrid came on the scene. But I think Trevor is right. They do kind of look for him a lot, even more than they would Foden. And then Kane as well. Like, they try and hit Kane early. So in terms of being the Spanish manager, would you put more marking attention on Bellingham and Kane for the final, or would you just play your game and hope for the best?
I just play my game and hope for the best of me. But again, right there, as I said earlier, if you could go out there and isolate Harry Kane, you're gonna take this game. I mean, because I don't think that England can. England's defense right there is not going to be able to handle Spain's attack. I mean, it's going to have to be a point where England's going to have to figure a way to unlock this very technical Spanish side. I mean, the more I talk about, the more it sounds like Spain really has a really clear advantage over England. But that's a good way for England to come in as an underdog with this right there. But again, I think that having Kane up there by himself has been disastrous in my opinion. I mean, we saw he got taken out. I mean, in that last match right there. I mean, yeah, of course he could have won the penalty and scored the penalty on the against the Dutch. But the problem is right there is that other than that, for the most of the minutes right there, he didn't really accomplish anything. I mean, and then you could look back at the group stage. I mean, he was isolated a lot of times to there where he didn't score. I mean, again, we relied on a Tony who's a lot quicker and a lot more agile, and Watkins right there again, who's first time getting on the pitch right there. I think this whole tournament was against the Dutch. So I mean, I think that again, if you can go out there and if you can isolate that three midfielders with Harry Kane, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think that Spain will walk through this right there. So if they can do that.
Trevor, before we move on to the next thing, is there any possible way, do you think, that the gods will favor us and smile on us, and Declan Rice will smack his knee into a corner of the coffee table before the final, so I don't have to look at his stupid grinning face if he actually wins this thing?
If he doesn't, that's just proof that there is no God.
That would actually be a good philosophical point. I would take him. I would take him being crestfallen. I would take him scoring an equaliser and then England losing by a last minute goal.
Then he just slips on a banana peel.
Yeah, then he slips on a banana peel. Yeah, you gotta have that. Down the steps. That's the other one where he's going like that.
Or maybe he swallows his tongue while he's singing "God Save the King."
Yeah, I wouldn't be that harsh, but I would be quite happy for his kneecaps to fall off. So let's move on to another tournament-ish. Copa America. There was going to be a Liverpool winner as of last night. It won one way or the other in the final. Uruguay out. Darwin Núñez, I didn't think he did anything special in the game, and another worrying sign for us on the Thursday night program. But the biggest story from the Copa America, from our point of view as the American Scouser podcast, is the firing of Greg Berhalter, or mutual consent, whatever they call it these days. He was garbage. And the possibility that Jurgen Klopp, and it may only be paper talk, and rather it probably is paper talk, but the possibility of Jurgen Klopp managing America, possibly Germany as well, I just saw before we came on air. And originally, I was against this idea, Brian. I thought it would be a kick in the face after everything he said about needing a break and time off and probably never coming back to coaching. But a good point was made to me that international soccer probably would actually suit him a lot better because he doesn't have to be there every single day. He could do a lot of PR stuff. He could live in California like Jurgen Klinsmann, get some sun on his teeth. And Strategic says Klopp rejected the USA within minutes of being approached, but that means nothing because these things go round and round and round and round, and then eventually things happen. Usually involving money, but hopefully not with Klopp. But my point is, it's not so much about Jurgen Klopp, but a Jurgen Klopp type manager. I believe we spoke about this before, but a Jurgen Klopp type manager would be an ideal manager for the US men's national team because I think we mentioned before, you need somebody who'll come in and say, here's everything I've achieved. What have you done to tell me that I need to pick these players or listen to this player's mother or select players from this league only? Because if the next USA manager is even Jesse Marsh, who probably has a bit more he has a bit more gravitas now than he did before, especially with his performance for Canada. You need somebody who can go in and say, I'm the boss, and that's the end of that. Jurgen Klopp would be a good appointment in that sense, but from the US men's national team perspective, that's the kind of candidate that really is needed, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. So a couple of the points right there. Klopp is never going to become U.S. manager. If anything, right there, I think that Klopp will probably go over to Germany once Nagelsmann goes there and loses his job, which is probably coming up pretty soon too. But I mean, he might not even take that yet. I mean, it may be a time right there where he truly wants to go out there and take a break from football, and I can't blame him right there. I mean, we're much. I mean, Liverpool's much. I mean, as far as like the stress, and I mean, we all feel it. I mean, I've aged so much in the past, like 20 years. I mean, from Liverpool. I mean, but I mean, you think that? I don't think that
I'm only 24.
I know I'm only 18.
Yeah, and you're not in a bathtub.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys had all those references to Britpop last week. Weren't you like fetuses when those were out?
Yeah, but we were very well musically educated.
Yes.
Or feti.
So I don't think that Klopp's going to take it. Now, Jesse Marsh, I'd tell U.S. Soccer to kick rocks right there, after the way he was treated right there on this. I mean, I think that Jesse Marsh has a good system going. He has Canada playing very well, and I think that he is right where he wants to be at. And I would say, hey, you know what? Too little, too late with them. But if the same people are in charge, minus Ernie Stewart, who I went on Discord and explained how I feel about Ernie Stewart and what he's done to the U.S. program. If everybody is still in place right there, including Berhalter's brother, then we are going to have a mediocre manager again, and that's it. I mean, I'm sorry, nobody's going to be attracted to this job with the upper U.S. soccer management still in place. Clear the whole fucking place. I mean, I'm sorry. That's the way I feel about it. If you start, it's like, I mean, it's a nuclear option in my opinion, because right now that you don't have anything to go off of. We have a World Cup coming up, and we have a team that's in disarray. I mean, that Copa performance was embarrassing. I mean, it really was. I mean, so you have to build off of that right there, which means you have to build from the top down to the bottom, and which means that you got to get rid of all these people right there, and then start fresh. I mean, go back to the people right there who helped build these kids. Tab Ramos right there came there and built half these kids that are playing in there right now. Get him back in the mix right there. Get him to go in and talk and get with these kids again. With the U17s that he came there and went into semifinals with, get him in there with these kids. They know he knows how to go in there and approach them. What's going to hurt? I mean, honestly, as far as the international manager, as a U.S. manager, there isn't one out there right now as a U.S. national that I would say to go ahead and take. So you're going to have to go back and look. I've heard names like Wagner. I think Wagner would be probably pretty good manager. I just don't think that it's just, again, you have to be a manager almost on a tail end, or you have to be a specific type of manager to want to go ahead and take an international job, because it's different. It's a totally different thing. So I don't know who's going to manage us. I think that we need to have a manager that's going to be ballsy and tell everybody to say, you know what, this is my club. I'm in charge of the selection. If I don't want Giovanni Reina and his shit-ass parents involved, then guess what? They're not going to be involved. No apologies, no backroom PR bullshit that happened with Berhalter. So again, we need a whole-scale change.
Trevor, that seems like the US men's national team really needs Antonio Conte, doesn't it?
That entire team would quit within 4 weeks of Antonio Conte being.
But that's what you'd want. You want better players.
That's the thing. We started be taking USL guys, the guys I'd be seeing at like RIFC, because that just nobody else would be like, I don't want to do that. I don't want the run. I don't want somebody yelling at me. And I think, yeah, if we just talk about the general culture of the U.S. men's national team, the fact that they were able to get Berhalter back as the coach in the first place is a gigantic red flag for the program. And that everybody, and I've been listening to the radio the past couple of days. I was just like, oh, Matt Crocker is a guy that comes in and he's ready to make the tough decisions. I go, the first tough decision he had, he went, what do you guys want? Do you want your old coach back? Do you want Gweg back? I go get him. He's sitting back here, and we're gonna pay him. We're gonna pay him more this time because we have to do equal, because we're just doing all these things, and I know he still sucks, but you want him, so that's great. We're gonna make it. It's gonna be awesome, and there's gonna be no problems at all. Like Brian said, there needs to just be a complete just douching of the entire U.S. Soccer Federation. I'll say this here, and I know I'm not naive. I know it will never happen. The political structure of that entire system, you cannot kill it. It is the shittiest of hydras. Whatever head you cut off, you're going to get two more equally just really redundant, crappy ideaed people popping in. So, yeah, my hope at this point is that there's somebody that will come in, and even if it's like an MLS guy, if it's like Jim Curtin or like Steve Cherundolo, that they come in and they just kind of put their foot down. And that's a hard thing to say for like an MLS guy, especially those guys that there's not really like worldwide resumes for them. But if they just come in and go, I'm not going to deal with the meddling. I'm not going to deal with, Claudio Reyna is not very happy that I only played his son 9 minutes in this friendly. And then if it comes down to it and they just go, fuck off. Whereas Berhalter and all the parts of the current regime are just going, well, oh man, we can't make him angry. We can't piss this guy off. We have a World Cup on our home turf in 2 years. And if you're sitting here and your entire thing is just going to be glad handing and going, oh, well, oh my God, we're worried about Gio Reyna's feelings and shit like that, then we might as well just kind of put ourselves in the group of death and get fucking knocked out beforehand. Yeah, just Why even fucking try? Yeah, you really don't want to put yourself in a position to succeed when you're already giving yourself no avenues to.
Here's my question, Brian, though. Here's what I don't understand from the US men's national team. It is the most experienced squad, I think, that the US has ever had in terms of European experience, Champions League experience, the top divisions of world football. Why is there no schism in the US men's national team? Why aren't the younger player, the players that are playing in Europe, looking at how things are going and go, hang on, that's not how it's done. I've seen how successful teams are put together, and this nonsense isn't it. We want a change. Where is that division in that team?
I think the problem is right there. You have a bunch of you would experience a ton of backlash right there from any player that causes problems in U.S. sports. So we see this all the time right there. Any player that goes against the grain of a U.S. sports team, you can name the team right there from the Dallas Cowboys to the Boston Red Sox to the Los Angeles Lakers right there. If you create any kind of division right there, you're the problem, and it's not the organization's problem. We are too big in this country right there with promoting the big structure of the team versus actually the players. I mean, yeah, it's a quick balance right there. You have to play right there because you can only have so many players right there have a power right there. But in the U.S. in the U.S. men's national team's case right there, we're playing a fucking a formation that none of these guys play. Berhalter was trying to reinvent the wheel instead of actually, and I said this last week right there, plug and play. As an international manager, plug and play. Put players right there where they're supposed to
be fair,
play.
The wheel's a crappy invention.
Yeah. but yeah, I mean, so I mean, plug and play. If all these players play 4-3-3, guess what? Play 4-3-3. I mean, it's common sense. I mean, and I mean, Southgate does the same shit too. I mean, it's like, again, but Berhalter right there is guilty of it right there, of complacency with this side. And I mean, a very talented side right there. I mean, I watched Pulisic actually had a very decent individual tournament, but everybody around him right there was trash because the formation didn't fit them. I mean, Weah right there. Everybody would have point fingers at Weah right there for the red card. Yeah, it was stupid, but again, right there, we've lost a lot of the way that we played prior. I mean, yeah, of course, U.S. team has never really won something in the seniors, right? But things that we pride ourselves on. We had fantastic goalkeepers. We have shit for goalkeepers right now. You know, I know Galley's probably listening to this because I say it all the time. Our goalkeepers suck. I mean, it's bad. I mean, in that last game right there the game against Panama, both those goals were easily savable goals right there, and we did shit. We didn't do shit. So you know what? We got what we deserve right there for this. And I agree with Trevor. If we're gonna go there and keep on down this road right there, put us in a group of death right there, so we just get this shit over with quick, move on, and then we'll just go down the road. But again, if the upper management isn't changed, more of the same. It's gonna be more of the same. I have no faith in any of those people above to pick the right person to go in there to lead the U.S. men's national team.
I'll chime in on the goalkeeper thing. Haven't seen it up close, but it seems to me that when the USA goalkeepers were good, it was because they were trained as goalkeepers. And then for the last 15 years, they've been trained as outfield players who wear gloves. It's something I fundamentally disagree with. I think it's a specialist position in soccer, the goalkeeper, and that's why they have different rules and different equipment. So they should be trained even from the kids' age of what the job actually is, and then also teach them how to be like the the sweeper keeper that can pass the ball and keep possession going. But a lot of it seems to be in the modern game as well, of just teaching goalkeepers how to be outfield players who just happen to have warmer hands in the winter. But let's before we finish that one, Trevor, in terms of who in the US national team system, who in the USSF has the power and the influence that, like, let's say a club owner or a club chairman has, to say, enough, this is just not working and we have to change everything, and I'm going to change everything, and then once it's changed, we're going to create a new men's national team with a new coach, 50% new players that aren't affected or infected rather by the drama, and we're going to make a really solid push to get to the semi-finals at least of the 26 World Cup, because host countries generally do well for the most part, not always. But a country like the USA, who has players that are now playing in the big leagues, should be pushing for that quarterfinal, semi-final spot, I think, on home turf at least. So who is there, or is there anybody even who can say, nope, enough is enough, no more drama, we have a project to do and we're going to do it today?
That is truly the old $64,000 question. And yeah, what Archie said and what Dave said earlier, I think a gigantic part of the problem is comfortability and complacency. There's too many people that think that their spots in both the hierarchy of the USFF and in the team itself are unchallengeable. And yes, I'm not sitting here going, get rid of Christian Pulisic, get rid of Weston McKennie, get rid of all these guys.
Get rid of Weston McKennie because he is one of the stupidest names in soccer I've ever heard. He sounds like a country song.
That's just modern names. I work with a bunch of kids coming out of college now that have 1,000 times worse names than Weston. I will just absolutely blow your mind with the
Easton McKinney.
You laugh now. There is a person one building over me named Easton. And there's also I think there's an NFL quarterback. I think his name is Easton. It's terrible. So I don't want to go down that path. I have way too much useless ammunition on that front. But I'm going to direct my shots towards your question, and that being what we could do as a soccer nation to kind of build things to a better place. And I wish I had that golden ticket. I wish I had that golden name, because there's so many people that you could go, we could go with this guy. But then you just do that deep dive, and then there's all that and I think that goes back to what Brian was saying, is there's just that rot within the US soccer system. You can't go like this guy because, then he has to get this guy's players in here because he owes this guy a favor. And then there's just all this interwoven shit. And when you see that in other countries, because I that was a big thing for a while in like France, where they wouldn't take certain guys from certain teams because there was just like, I don't want this guy. So they're just going to bring a bunch of guys from Lyon. And then when the new coach comes in, we're just going to bring a bunch of guys from PSG. And then like Didier Deschamps just was like, no, like, fuck y'all. I'm taking the best players and we're going to make it work. And if this guy hates this guy, then you can work it out because you're fucking adults. And the big thing that I've seen from the U.S. men's national team is that it's a bunch of children. It's stuff that I saw in AAU when I was 12. It's just like, my daddy says that I should be playing more. My cousin put a good stat on Twitter that I have 14 crosses. And they're using this as like things to just promote themselves. And I go, but you lost to Panama. who cares how many fucking crosses you completed? And it's something where there's so much individualism that you're like, oh, these guys are great. Oh, this guy's playing in AC Milan. This guy's playing at Juventus. This guy's playing in Ajax. All these PSV guys are killing it. And then when they come back to the thing, and I get what Archie's saying about the MLS and how there's just being that it's just not good enough. It's not even that anymore. It's all these guys that are going overseas, which we want them to do. We want these guys to go test themselves at the highest level. And they're coming back thinking their shit don't stink. And instead of just going, I know I've tested myself against these players that we're going to be playing at these major tournaments, they just go, well, I'm coming back. I'm king shit of fuck mountain. Nothing I do is wrong. And anything that goes wrong is the 10 other guys on the field, not me. And that is the basic sentiment of everybody on the field. From the keeper to the striker, nobody has any accountability. Nobody wants to just go, oh, maybe if I did this, that, or the other thing, we could have made this guy's tournament better. We could do this. It's like, oh no, that guy sucked, so I sucked. That guy sucked, so I sucked. And it's just a gigantic spider web of finger pointing. And it's, yeah, there needs to be an absolute clean sweep to make it better. And I just don't see that happening in 2 years.
I just want to point out before we move on to the last thing for the night that the best name in sports is obviously Hingle McCrinkleberry, for anybody who knows. Not as good as maybe Scoich Velociraptor Maloish or X-Wing Ataliciousness, but we'll take Easton and Weston McKinney at least for direction. So
I'll go with Donkey Teeth.
Donkey Teeth is good, yeah. Donkey Teeth is good, but I'm more prone to it.
I was going to go for that one, but I had no chance of doing that this time of night. There was no way I could hit that note.
But let's move on then before we get stuck on Key and Peele jokes, which are phenomenal and awesome. First week of this chap training at Liverpool. We were waiting long enough for the press interviews and the press conferences, and now we're fully into the actual training of the players. By all accounts, incredibly different. Gone is the lactate test, which they all dreaded. I would love to sit here with my old school coach's hat on and say it's all unnecessary nonsense, but the top coaches do these things and they have success with it. So who am I to argue? But what I am both happy and a little bit concerned about is that the training is a little bit easier, it seems, for the preseason than a Klopp preseason training is, Brian. And he's not changing too much. It's just a different set of activities that are a little bit less harsh. So it seems like he's almost one of those like that Dutch fitness guy's name. I can't remember his name. He was on Wales for a bit, who says you should build up the fitness throughout the season so that you peak at Christmas and then you're fully fit from Christmas onwards, as opposed to the traditional way, which Klopp was, which is get fit for the first game and then hope to God you don't lose players throughout the rest of the season, which we have done for several years on the trot. I'm happy with that because the players seem to enjoy it. And I do remember when Jose Mourinho went to Chelsea, one of the first things he did was he stopped them doing any running that didn't involve the ball. So they started doing all these like ball exercises instead, which made them almost revert back to when they were kids playing football, when they did training as kids, and it was all with a ball, which instantly made them love Jose Mourinho. And that was such a huge thing for that success that Chelsea had under him, was because the players loved him because he did something that was phenomenally different to any coach.
Be careful praising. Hey, be careful praising Jose Mourinho.
I know we're gonna the Discord channel is gonna be fired tonight. But my point is that Arne Slot seems to be doing things that players enjoy and don't dread. So on one hand, that bodes well for the start of the season and for that bond that managers and players need, especially replacing somebody like Klopp. But also, sometimes, as we saw with David Moyes taking away the French fries on Friday at Man United, it can backfire on you sometimes, can't it?
I mean, it can right there, but again, right there, I think the early days with evaluations right there. I mean, it's a good way to go there and try to figure out what players are capable of in the get go. I mean, there's a lot of people right there who need to go in there who need to get evaluated. I mean, we have Seth Vandenberg back right there. I mean, who's been on loan for like the last 2 seasons. We need to figure out whether whether he has a future here. I mean that's a prime player.
No, he's
I mean,
ginger. Sell him.
I mean, Carvalho, we need to figure out Carvalho. I mean, there's like different players that we need to figure out right there. I mean, so I'd rather him take his time right there and get these guys figured out. And like when Sir Z said, maybe we can have a full fit side the entire season right there versus every season about February with half our teams is like half dead and like, and joining Thiago. I mean, so it's like it seems like every season we've had that right there. So I'm good with this more this approach. I mean, I think that the bonding is going to be great. I think the one thing that I think these guys are all the fitness over the season right there concept to me makes sense. Of course, with this league, if you get back behind behind in points, it's done. I mean, really, we figure about November for the most part. The league is almost shooken up right there about November for the most part. So, I mean, you have to be careful. It's a fine line right there to say, okay, I need these players to be fit and peaking at Christmas time, but I also need them to make sure that they're up for the big games and these games that we should be winning, which you should be getting points off, which I killed us in quite a few seasons right there. But I mean, that's under Klopp's approach. It killed us. So, I mean, if it's a different approach to get to the goal, perfect. I'm fine with it. I mean, we just have to kind of get the Klopp thing out of our head. I think, I mean, it kind of is like a short right there that Gally was talking about the press conference where Klopp was like mentioned like 5 or 6 different times through there. We have to move on. That part of our chapter is over with right there. I mean, let's get behind Slot and come through and say, hey, let's let his techniques work.
Trevor, it just popped into my head while Brian was talking there, and with Sir Z's comment that the 2013-14 season was, I saw somewhere at the time, we kind of wanting to know more about Brendan Rodgers and all that, but he was one of those coaches that was of the opinion that you build up the fitness throughout the season rather than get players fully fit for day one. And if I remember correctly, a huge part of that 2013-14 season for me was that we didn't have any injured players, really. Not muscular injuries and all that kind of stuff. We had maybe a few ankle ligaments, a few knees here and there. But in terms of breaking down, because, your hamstring's gone after 10 minutes like Thiago, because, the ball went 5 yards away from you. They caught the breeze slightly and it blew the tassel on your sock. And then your hamstring popped. That maybe we won't see that kind of thing. Like if we're going to have an injured player, it's going to be a player that got clobbered by somebody else, which you can't predict for, unless Joey Barton's on the field, of course. But it would be nice to have our best players, and in fact, all of our players, relatively healthy and available to play for 32 of the 38 league games a season. That would be something that would be a huge bonus for Arne Slot coming into the end of the season, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I'm always kind of just meandering between both camps because I think if you're going to play a high-paced system, you want to get people ramped up to that early. But if you're going to kind of play that middle ground and you're going to want your guys healthy and at just their peak, like Brian said, like Christmas, where that fixture congestion gets really rough and you want people just in peak shape to go through that rigmarole. It's going to be that first 5 games that we've seen the fixtures for. That is going to be huge to see with what Arne Slot is bringing to the table, because then you'll kind of get, I think, a better gauge of how the season is going to go in terms of rotation. It's going to go with how the training is going to be, because it may be like, and like Archie's saying, like there's a lot of guys that aren't there yet, and you are just trying to be going at like half speed to just kind of get these guys that aren't in these tournaments, or these guys that have, like Carvalho, where the championship season ended like a couple weeks before the Premier League season ended, and he didn't get called in to the national team. So he has all of this like pent up stuff, and he has this energy where he's like, he wants to prove himself to the new guy and come in, because we all know that the Monday guys really think Carvalho in this new system could be a real player. And there's guys that may
they also like Nunes.
But we hate him. We're the
got that right.
We are the Darwin defamation team here on Thursdays. And we'll get to that part in a little bit. But the biggest thing I think with it is just finding a balance. And right now, I think Arne Slot, just from these couple of sessions and what you see from here, it's just an early balance. And I'm not trying to read too much into it. It's like these guys are going to do these things, and he's just seeing what he has in terms of skill sets with the players that he has available. A lot of these guys that are in this camp right now may be sold, and a lot of these guys may not even be part of his plans. But it seems that he's given, just from the videos I watched, he's given everybody ample chance to prove their worth. And he seems to be a straightforward guy where it's, if somebody is not part of his plans, he's not going to string them along. He's going to go, we're going to find a spot for you either on a loan, or we're going to get you first team football somewhere else. I'm not going to sit here and fiddle fuck with you and just have you be a guy that is just in the ether. And you guys go back to Vandenberg. I think the whole thing with his price tag and that whole shit with him being like, oh man, they're valuing me too high because they don't want to give me a thing and do this. Like, that's a negotiation tactic. Like you're going to, if you are not part of Arne Slot's plans, you will be moved on, and you will be moved on early. I don't think it's going to be something, just from his general candor, he's not going to move Vandenberg on 11:59 of deadline day to a place. He's going to just go, he's not part of it, he's gone. And I that's the most refreshing thing I've seen from just the way he's talked about players and the way he's gone about his things. Yeah, all the people that are asking about Klopp are like, oh, good. Yeah, he's kind of taken it in stride. But in the same regard, he's looking at this job as the opportunity of a lifetime, and he's not really taking it for granted. So he's going, these people that are going to be here, they're going to be here. And these ones that aren't. So if you want to talk about the players that are going to be here, let's have a conversation. And if you're just going to hound me about the guys that aren't going to, you can just take those questions and shove them up your ass, because it's an unnecessary dialogue. And that is something that I think is going to be fruitful for this season, because I think a lot of this business, once these tournaments are done, is just going to come thick and fast.
I just want to point out that all these players, all these fans or whatever talking about, or players rather, talking about things, that sound like Chewbacca, Trevor. I don't know. Well, maybe they're the Wookiees. Sorry.
Bring the Wookiee to me.
I didn't know that Star Wars was in The Godfather as well.
This is crossing the streams more than anything. And now you got a Ghostbusters reference.
Yeah, we got a Ghostbusters reference. We're doing well tonight. Yeah, we're doing well tonight. Brian, just before we wrap it all up, I've seen footage and pictures of players, the players doing kind of weird things, like sort of little tag boxing matches, etc., like fun activities, I'm sure. And these things always seem to have a fitness component. They're like kind of fitness by stealth almost, like playing tag. You know, like I remember when I was a teenager, like we get the pennies, the color pennies, and you put them in like foxes and farmers, whatever you call it, tuck it into your shorts, and you play a little game of that, and you think, what's this got to do with soccer? Until it's explained, you're turning, you're sharp, and you're not running around cones. You're acting like you would in a game, and you didn't even realize you just worked at 100% capacity for 15 minutes and didn't complain once. So look, it's good to see that the players are doing different things like that. So my question to you is, having had 9 years of Klopp, 5 years of Klopp, 3 years of Klopp, how important is that variety to Arne Slot making his mark on the team?
Very important right there, because you have to go in there and break what was the past manager. You have to go in there and change the mentality of a team right there. I mean, Klopp did the same thing right there when he took over from Brendan Rodgers. I mean, again, you have to go in there and change what your philosophy was. Rafa did the same thing right there after Jed. I mean, things change. I mean, so you have to go in there and go through it. I'm all a fan of mixed training right there. I think that it actually sharpens your mind and opens up different ideas and concepts to you that you don't even know what you're doing. Like you said right there. I mean, especially like the whole thing with like the tag and boxing, playing basketball we play things like that, different things that that do different cardio.
John Barnes used to play squash, and he got like the Liverpool players to play squash with him because it's for anybody who's played squash, it's such an intense movement game.
Yeah.
And way shorter than soccer, that they were getting fitter just doing that, until Graham Souness came along and wrecked everybody's Achilles tendons.
Well, Graham Souness wrecked a lot of people's Achilles tendons.
But as a player and a coach, that's so much.
Yes, but I think that you're going to see a lot of different change, and I think that we just have to all go out there and have a little bit more open mindedness right there to what goes on, because I mean the Dutch system is a lot different right there than what we're used to. I mean, we went from a classic, basically a Jose Mourinho type of system right there with Brendan Rodgers, to a German Gegenpressing type system with a high intensity right there with Klopp. So you're going to see now we're going to a more Dutch right there, where it's like a mini Gegenpressing. So it's like there is a press, but it's not really a hard press. So I mean, we're supposed to get used to how things are going to be changed, and that's it. I mean, Klopp's gone. Klopp's gone.
On that, thank you for that sad note to end the show on, Brian. Let's all have a cry into our beers. Only kidding, but it is an exciting thing to see, and what I'm interested in seeing is what the players come out with in the press over the next month or so about the train, because they're going to be asked about what the difference is, and I'm really excited to see what they say about the train, because that'll tell you everything you need to know, I think, about how they're reacting to Slot. If they're very enthusiastic about it, I think he has them there and then. There's no doubt about it. He's not going to have a David Moyes style Man United revolution against him because he didn't put French fries and gravy on the menu on Fridays or something like that. But if they say, oh, it's training is training, and they just seem nonplussed about it, I think that's going to be a cause for concern for us as Liverpool fans. But it sounds like everybody's enjoying it. He seems like he wants to do the progressive things. We wish him the best anyway as Liverpool fans, but I think we want the Liverpool players to be as excited as we are, seeing as they're doing the day-to-day stuff. So if they're happy with it, I think we should all be happy with it as well, and can rest easy in our beds with our cups of Ovaltine and our decoder rings every night, waiting for the first kick of a ball in August. So it just remains to say thank you to everybody for joining us tonight, and we love the comments. We love to see more. We want to see more people comment, and we see how many people are watching the stream and the podcast, and we love to see that, but we want to hear more from you. I want to thank Archie and Suzy and Dave for their comments tonight. No, Alan, I hope he's okay. I hope he's not turned into steam or a puddle of sweat down there in Houston. And
I hope he has power. I mean,
I hope he has power. Yeah, that'd be. I hope he's got power. Although it's Texas, who knows?
Yeah, if he's got solar, he's got plenty of power.
If he's got solar, he's got plenty of power. But then probably now Greg Abbott, they've probably tried to get.
Yeah, probably got turned off. It's like, how dare you harness the sun, you goddamn heathen!
Yeah, he's probably trying to harness energy and energon cubes from Transformers or something like that. I saw it on a cartoon once. It must be a thing. Or energy decubicons, as somebody I went to college once called them, which I've always called them ever since. Energy decubicons. So for us, make sure you are liking and subscribing and commenting on all of our streams and our channels. We have the YouTube channel, we have Instagram and Facebook, our Discord channel, where all the craziness happens, and of course our Patreon, where all the special stuff happens. It's like OnlyFans, only with ugly middle-aged men and no sex, which is what happens when you're an ugly middle-aged man. We also have our morning coffee tomorrow morning, I believe. If not, don't complain to me. I'm just a messenger. And we'll have our Monday podcast, I think, on Monday as usual with the three lads of the Darwin Núñez fan club. I've no idea what's going on with them. They need to drink more coffee. But we'll be back hopefully next Thursday. And the preseason games will be coming up pretty soon, I believe, if not next week, the week after.
26 is the first one.
Yeah, the 20. So there we go. We're 2 weeks away, so we'll have something to talk about Liverpool-wise.
Gonna put a bunch past Adrian.
Oh yeah, he's gonna let them in for us. Let's be honest, he's gonna let them in for us.
Sleeper agent Adrian.
He's finally helped Liverpool win a game. But we will be back. Enjoy your weekends. If you're experiencing any of those heat warnings and storms, etc., please be careful. And if you are in the northeast, don't go anywhere near Brian's pool unless you want to be boiled alive and served as his lunch. It could happen. 197 degrees in his pool, I think he said it was, and everybody was there with the cups of tea. But we will be back next Thursday. Have a great weekend. It is time, of course, in this sweltering July weather for the 70s. It's the most appropriate weather for the 70s porn music. Have a good one. Peace out.